Last month, Hollywood director Carl Rinsch was arrested and charged with wire fraud after years-long allegations of stealing tens of millions of dollars from Netflix for a project he created for the company but never finished. It's alleged he used the money for the project to buy cryptocurrency, luxury cars, narcotics, and even to hire lawyers to sue Netflix for coming after their own money. A few days ago, Carl pled not guilty to all charges, and it seems like this case will now go to trial. If Carl loses, he could face over 20 years behind bars if he is found guilty of all charges. In order to tell the whole story, we have to go back to the beginning and explain how Carl and Netflix ended up at this point of no return. Carl was born in Los Angeles in the 1970s and had a love of the film industry from the start. After graduating college, he got into the industry and eventually worked his way up to directing commercials for big brands like Heineken, Sprite, BMW, and many more. Eventually, this led him to his big break of directing a feature film, which was the 2013 film 47 Ronin, starring Keanu Reeves. This film, unfortunately for Carl, was a box office bomb, and it led to Carl having to go back to directing commercials, as no other major studio wanted to give him another shot after 47 Ronin reportedly lost over $100 million for the parent company Universal Pictures. Carl eventually married a model named Gabriella Roses in 2014, and together they began working on a passion project codenamed White Horse, which was a science fiction series about an artificial, human-like species called Organic Intelligent, which are created to provide humanitarian aid around the world and face conspiracies in the background that create conflict and an apocalyptic showdown. Carl and Gabriella eventually secured funding from a production company, 30 West, to produce 6 short episodes about 4 minutes long as a sizzle reel in order to sell the series to a studio. They eventually ran out of money, and Carl reached out to Keanu Reeves, who he had worked with before, and was able to secure more funding from the star to help keep production going on the series. Early production on the series was taking place in 2016, and this was during the boom in streaming services, with Amazon Prime Video and Netflix in a heated race to scoop up every project they could get their hands on so they could get new series for their streaming services. With Keanu Reeves' money attached to the project now, both services began fighting for the rights to own the series, and eventually Carl agreed to a deal of $61.2 million from Netflix, which they would pay to him in installments over the series' progression. Giving that insane amount of cash to a director that had only completed one box office bomb was a huge risk, but Netflix's goal was to get as much original content as possible on their platform and didn't really seem to care if it was good or not, just that it would be completed to fill quotas they had. Netflix gave the series a new codename, Conquest, and Carl began working on the series, which was set in Brazil. It was only a matter of a few short weeks before things went south and the film crew began complaining to the studio about Carl's behavior on set. They claimed he would constantly yell and curse at the crew, began taking narcotics, and his wife even had to convince him to enter rehab shortly after production started for his drug use. We'll get into that more after a word from today's sponsor. Alright guys, so on the channel, you know I like to do a lot of investigations. But one investigation I've never done is into my actual ancestry, where exactly I'm from. Which brings us to today's sponsor, which is MyHeritage. They decided to send me this DNA kit, and we're going to use it today to find out more about my heritage, and I'll show you exactly what it tells me about where my ancestry is from. So MyHeritage sends you a very easy to use cheek swab. You just dab each side of your mouth, you put it back in the return container, send it to their facility, and within a few weeks they will tell you everything you need to know about yourself. So right now they have sent me back MyHeritage results. I have not looked at it myself, so we're gonna look at it together. Let's see, it says, Scott, ready to explore your ethnicity, let's go. Scott, you are let's see. So I'm 20% East European. That's very interesting. Didn't know that. 19.7 Germanic. Obviously, I expected that since my last name is German. 16% English. I didn't know that. That's interesting as well. So 15.4 Scottish and Welsh. Interesting. My name is Scott. 28.8% 6 more ethnicities. That's really interesting. Cool. And then it gives you all the breakdown of where all the different ethnicities you're from on the map. That's really cool that they show all that. You can look at DNA matches as well. It has all these different people that have DNA matches to myself that I can potentially contact and see if they're like DNA match, shared DNA 2%, probable relationship, parent, second cousin. Interesting. MyHeritage is committed to its privacy policy to never sell or license your genetic data, which is a big win in my book, and I'm more than happy to have MyHeritage be a sponsor on this video and help my viewers find out about their heritage just like they did for me. If you would like to try MyHeritage out, use the link below or scan the QR code to try a 30-day free trial, and be sure to use coupon code Schaefer to get a 10% discount as well. I really did enjoy learning about my ethnic background, and I'm sure you'll enjoy learning about yours if you give MyHeritage a try. According to reports, Carl began using
lisdexamfetamine
on set, and his wife and family urged him to enter rehab. Drug use obviously made production on the project go south, and Carl began to run out of funds. He urged Netflix to send the next installment of money, and despite not hitting any of the production deadlines, Netflix decided to send an additional $11 million to keep production running. According to authorities, Carl transferred the $11 million to his personal account and used a large percentage of the money to purchase stock options, which ended up losing him about $6 million in just a matter of weeks. Production had started on the project in 2019, and by 2021, with almost nothing to show for the nearly 2 years of work, Netflix began to get frustrated with Carl's slow progress and demanded updates as to why he was behind schedule. Carl's mental state continued to deteriorate, and he began sending bizarre emails to Netflix executives claiming that he had a way to map the pandemic virus, which he claimed was emanating a signal from inside the Earth's core. Needless to say, the guy had completely lost the plot. His wife Gabriella divorced him in 2021, and in March of that year, Netflix cut off funding for the series with almost nothing to show for the 2 years of work they had paid for. Now, despite Carl's idiotic use of Netflix money to buy stock options and drugs, he apparently lucked out because he had used a large chunk of their money to buy Dogecoin in 2020, and by May of 2021, Dogecoin had reached its peak, and Carl cashed out the money, which according to authorities totaled to about $23 million. Carl had all the money he would ever need at this point and began to live a lavish life. He bought 5 Rolls Royces, a Ferrari, as well as expensive furniture and jewelry. He even used some of the money to sue Netflix, claiming they owed him an additional $14 million in future installments for the series they had never paid him. One of the weirdest purchases was a custom Hastings Grand Vivitas mattress, which was handmade in Sweden, that is reportedly the world's most expensive mattress at $439,000. Unfortunately for Carl, his luck eventually ran out, and the judge ruled against his lawsuit targeting Netflix, and their counterclaim for him to pay back $8.78 million to them was approved. That happened in May of 2024, and less than a year later, in March of 2025, Carl was arrested in Los Angeles by federal agents and charged with wire fraud, money laundering, and 5 counts of engaging in monetary transactions in property derived from specified unlawful activity. Carl is still going through divorce court with his ex-wife Gabriella, and in released documents from that case, Carl has been telling the judge he's broke and can't afford to pay over $420,000 in back pay on spousal support he owes his wife. In court, he stated that, "Over the past 4 years, in lieu of a salary, I have been forced to use company funds for living expenses, and that his monthly income is zero." Considering he made over $23 million from his Dogecoin profits, I find that claim to be very hard to believe. But maybe he really did spend it all, considering how much of a lunatic this guy turned out to be. In his court case against Netflix, we got to see just how lavish the guy was living. The $400K mattress he had purchased, he claimed was to be used as a prop in the second season of his Netflix show, which according to the arbiter in the case made no sense, since they could have just used a cheaper prop, and according to Carl's own storyboards for the palace scene he said the mattress would be in, the bed wouldn't even be visible. After Netflix won its case against him and Carl claimed he had no money left to pay them, They allegedly hired private investigators to track down hidden funds they believed he still has in crypto. But at this point, I really don't think they will be getting any of their money back, and judging by how much evidence is out there, I think it's a safe bet to assume Carl will be spending a long time behind bars. Let me know what you think will happen to Carl in the comments below. Thanks again to MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. Be sure to use coupon code Schaefer for a 10% discount. Links to their website are in the description and in the pinned comments down below.